What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Schreckbein, joined always by my main man, Steven Thompson. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk and subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers get their first win of the 2023 regular season with a 26-22 defeat over the Cleveland Browns in Week 2 at Acrisure Stadium. Monday Night Football was bumping. It was very nice to see a Pittsburgh Steelers fan takeover after, I want to say, a disappointing Week 1, both in the stands and on the field by the black and gold. It's a beautiful, crisp fall day in the Burgh. It was a perfect night for football last night. Plenty to talk about. Kenny Pickett, Matt Canada, the defense that might just keep winning the Pittsburgh Steelers games, and where the expectations currently sit for this team. But first, as always, coming off a win, how you feeling, my friend?
Feeling good. I felt like one of the most every part of that game was ridiculous.
Yes.
There were it was an incredibly stupid game, but an incredibly entertaining game. Like that was a college football game. Like for people who watch the NFL and don't watch college football, that's basically every college football game. There are a million turnovers, a million dumb mistakes that could have been avoided, and you're like, if they just didn't make that, 2 or 3 dumb mistakes, they would have won this game by 3 scores or whatever. But so it was a very college football game in that sense. But I also thought the crowd was like incredible. There was Boo City had some pent up aggression and they let it go in both ways. Like cheers were super loud, but also there was the other side of some jeers and stuff like that. So, but it was cool just to see that crowd like kind of come back after having to sit on their hands for basically all of Week 1.
Yeah, I agree. It was very nice. It was very loud. Like the energy was crazy. And what was wild is walking into the stadium, I said it in my walkover video, like it was quiet, man. There was not many people out there. I get it, I was a little bit early, but there just didn't seem to be like a giant rush, a giant crowd. By the time kickoff started, like you know how usually everybody kind of they fill in as the opening kick and everything kind of comes in, and by like a quarter of the way through the first quarter, the stands are filled. By kickoff, that place was loaded. Like there wasn't an empty seat in the house, which was awesome to see. But just like you said, it was as crazy as it got. What was your and I don't want to, I'm not here to pick on anybody, but some people need to be picked on. What was your favorite Gunnar Olszewski moment of last night?
Oh, it was easily the catching the kickoff before it went out of bounds, and then like calling for the penalty afterwards, being like, "No, I was out of bounds. Out of bounds." No, dude, you actively tried to toe tap and keep your feet in bounds. Like you did a great job of it.
Yeah, it was a fantastic toe tap.
Yeah, if that was a pass, that would have been great. But no, that was my favorite one. To do the wrong thing, do it so well, and then say, "No, I actually got it right on a technicality." Like that was crazy.
No, it was almost as if like I don't know what went through his head, and we're obviously not going to get to talk to him because he's in concussion protocol, but it's almost as if he watched that ball go in the air, and as it was coming, he was just like it was like he was a wide receiver. He was like, "Oh, I got to catch this pass," and then it happened, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, this was a kickoff. What do we do?" And he just pointed. It was a bad one, and then obviously he left the game concussion. But that play, I don't even blame him for that one. Good hit by Denzel Ward, I guess. Bad throw by Kenny Pickett. Wild play overall by both sides on that fumble. That was just
because that was the one
awesome to watch.
Because that was the one that got tipped around like 3 times.
Yeah, and then ended up out of bounds.
Yeah.
Browns somehow got the ball, like whatever. The ending of the first quarter was it was crazy. I remember looking at the clock in the second quarter, there was like 9 minutes, 10 minutes left or something. And I was like, man, the second quarter feels like it's going forever. And then I was like, oh no, the end of the first quarter took like 45 minutes. So we're just getting back on track as it goes. Yeah, it was just like you said, it was a drunk game. It was a college football. Everybody was hammered. It was a good time type of Monday Night Football that the Pittsburgh Steelers did win. So I guess, if you're going to be on an end of a wild game, you'd rather be on the victorious end. How they did win is rather concerning. TJ Watt scores a touchdown to end the game. Alex Highsmith scores a touchdown to begin the game. Shout out to those two. And the Pittsburgh Steelers might have the most deadly pass rushing combination in the NFL. We're going to dive into that a little bit later, but the offense was rough. very rough. And while Kenny Pickett struggled, and we obviously have to talk about that, the fans could not make it more clear where they stand with Matt Canada. And at this point, it's becoming, a pretty serious question about how much longer people are going to stick around to watch a guy that they very obviously do not want here. The fire Matt Canada chance started in the fourth quarter after a third down run that was unsuccessful by Kenny Pickett. And look, I've been covering this team for 5 years. I've heard a lot of chants. I've heard a lot of boos. I've heard Ben Roethlisberger get booed. I have never once heard a chant that in unison and that loud, especially after the team is up and winning in Acrisure Stadium ever in my existence. And at this point, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers, even if they say they didn't hear it, somebody's got to be paying attention, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's, I think, just kind of, it's not coach speak because it's coming from the players, but it is a deflection. It is, you're not trying to throw your guy under the bus. It is trying to be kind to Matt Canada, which you could appreciate, but yeah, those were way too loud not to hear, and it was way too obvious. And it was, you were right. It was a little jarring to like hear that come through so clearly.
Was it crazy on the TV? Was it just as loud?
Yeah, I mean, I could hear it, which, like I feel like in football stadiums you very rarely hear like you said, like a chant that loud, that in unison. Like, in different sports, I feel like that's much more common. In football, that just doesn't happen very often. You have to have a fan base that has one mind and one goal and like knows what's going on. So it was wild. I thought the wilder part was, man, I didn't even think Matt Canada was like the worst part of the offense in this game. Like I think there were plays out there that Kenny Pickett did not make that were much more glaring than some of the play calling decisions, quite honestly.
Yeah, I don't think Kenny Pickett is the guy right now. I think it's super concerning, and I think that fans and coaches and players and everybody are making a lot of excuses as to why this guy isn't it. Like, a lot of people were blaming the offensive line last night. I thought the offensive line played fine. A lot of people were blaming the running game. I thought the running game was fine. Kenny Pickett struggled. He's going to continue to struggle. Not sure if in my head right now, if I had to predict the future, just judged off of what we've seen, Kenny Pickett is not the long-term quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it's concerning. But if you're an NFL franchise, you have to take it in steps. Like you don't just give up on the guy that you drafted in the first round a year ago this early and say, "Oh, he's not it." You do the things around him to try to make him as comfortable as possible. And the first step there is obviously Matt Canada. And I think, for as much as Kenny did struggle, Matt stunk last night. Matt was terrible. The inability to stick to normal football in huge moments just blows my mind. Like, you get down the field on runs, you get down the field on short passes, and then you find yourself in 3rd and 1 situations, and no matter how many times Najee Harris can prove to you that he could get a yard, and he's one of the toughest runners in football, and Jaylen Warren too, especially last night, you're going to run an option with Kenny Pickett out of the shotgun. Like, that just doesn't make sense. And then you're going to find yourself in 2nd and short, and you're going to do a double reverse with Calvin Austin and then a jet sweep to Calvin Austin. Like, it seems like it's like 1 step forward, 2 steps back always when it comes to Matt Canada. But I think the more alarming part of this is just that, like, if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, how much longer are you like putting up with this? You know what I mean? Like, how much more are you going to take before you stop to lose interest? Because the Pittsburgh Steelers can't win like this. Like, the defense can't outscore the offense every week, and you could win. And I think what last night showed us was the Pittsburgh Steelers, they have a great defense, even without Minka left at one point. There's no Cam Hayward. You're dealing with injuries everywhere. They're still phenomenal. And George Pickens is a superstar as long as you put the ball in his hands. Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren are studs, and the offensive line's fine. Like, this team's built to do things. Their 2 most important pieces are their worst pieces, and I think you have to address it.
Yeah. And when I said Matt, I didn't think Matt was the worst part of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
offense last night. It wasn't that he was great. Yeah, like you said, the play calling in clutch moments was bad. He got cute, he got away from things that he knows works to try to, I don't know. In some ways it felt like trying to prove that he has a part in, like, it's not just all players' talent. Like, he's the creativity to scheme around teams no matter who his
Yes.
guys are. And sometimes that's just not that's just a detriment.
Yeah.
It's trying way too hard to prove that you are valuable when you can just make the right play call, when you can trust your playmakers. And sometimes that's just the mark of a good offensive coordinator. It's not being able to make plays regardless of, or create plays regardless of how talented your guys are. It's trusting talented guys when you have them.
Exactly. And it just doesn't seem like Canada wants to do that. And maybe he doesn't trust these guys. Maybe that's the thing, is he's just like, wow, these guys stink. But it just feels like he's fighting so hard. Like it feels like the Pittsburgh Steelers understand what they do well. It's what they did well in the last 8 games last season. It's what they did well, or said all summer that they were going to do well this season. But you open the game without a rush on your first drive. Like, what? Why? What was the point there? The point there was to try to get Kenny Pickett moving, was to try to get the passing game moving, and the balance almost seems forced. Like, it almost seems like Matt Canada is a passing quarterback. It's a passing league. That's how the Steelers are going to win if it's up to him. And when they find themselves in, crappy situations, that's when things are like, oh, okay, well, now we have to run an actual offense, like an offense that could succeed in the NFL and succeed here. I agree with you. At times he got cute, but that's just, at this point, it's like a revolving door. Like, there's been such little progression, and it seems almost as if that progression does not come from Canada, but rather comes from like Tomlin or Rooney or whoever's forcing his hand. And when Canada has control, it goes back down. And at some point, I think it does have to be addressed. But there's, I think we both can acknowledge that there's like almost zero chance the Steelers would make a move in season. That this is Matt Canada's team. And no matter how good the Pittsburgh Steelers could be this season, they're not going to change an offensive coordinator, even if he is going to lose some games. Kenny Pickett, just like you said, is the other part of that stunk again last night. I thought Kenny missed a lot of throws. His accuracy is terrible right now. It almost feels as if he's like trying to just showcase how strong his arm is. And because of that, he's throwing everything at everybody's feet and losing accuracy. But I mean, there were a couple of plays where he missed guys wide open. And then the Calvin Austin throw, I thought, was the most alarming. That and the George Pickens slant, where, the ball's 5 yards in front of these guys and they're pretty open. And there's just like nothing you could do there. I don't know what is up with Kenny. Maybe it's a confidence thing. Maybe it's not. But for right now, my outlook at Kenny Pickett is very concerning and does not seem to be turning around.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. Like, it seemed like he had plenty of velocity on a lot of these throws, but it seems to have come at the it seems to have come through sacrificing accuracy. Like, he's really trying to show off that arm, and it's not really making him any better of a passer. I thought some of the decision making was bad too, like just not finding open guys. Like, there were just tons of plays out there to be made, and you're just on top of what did happen, like some of the turnovers and everything like that. You are also left to wonder, okay, if he had made that throw, if he had converted that third down, whatever, what happens next? Is he able to get into a rhythm? Is he able to find something new? But it just seems like he cut himself off and kind of shot the offense in the foot every time that they had a chance to really get something going.
Yeah, there's just no confidence in the guy right now. Like, I don't know where it all went, but Kenny Pickett, even talking to him afterwards, like, you could tell that he wasn't pleased with the win. Like, he didn't feel good about the situation or his play at all. And this is 2 weeks in a row where it's just like, this is not the Kenny Pickett we saw all summer. This is not the Kenny Pickett that raved about confidence or that everybody voted as a team captain. I mean, that was literally what Tomlin said when Kenny was voted captain was it's just a vow of it's what these guys see in the confidence in this guy and how much confidence he has. He looks scared out there. He looks like he has no idea what's going on, and really like the game is just too fast and too big for him, and he can't seem to get anything done. And the accuracy is just kind of coming with it. Like I don't know what the concern is. Is it fixable? That's the biggest question. Like is Kenny Pickett still a work in progress where it could get better, or at this point is every game are we inching too close to the sun to say this is just not it?
I think it can be fixed. I think when you watch that game, you're kind of left unsatisfied because there's no one guy. You can't just say, well, Matt Canada's the issue, let's get rid of him and everything will be fine. Or Kenny Pickett's the issue, let's get rid of him, everything will be fine. There was a lot going on. And so I feel like we're never ever going to get like a true evaluation of how good either Matt or Kenny are until one of them is gone, until we're independent of that other variable. But I don't know. They're kind of married to each other for at least another year, like you said. So I don't know. Like I think that is fixable because I think it's just accuracy, like putting balls on guys and putting them into the right windows. Which I guess I don't have a ton of actual evidence to back that up, but I don't know. I think one of Kenny's strengths coming into the league was that he was accurate. If nothing else, even if he didn't have all the tools that you loved, he could put the ball in the right place and knew where to go with it. Maybe it's just taking him a minute. I don't know, but I'm more inclined to believe that these mistakes are fixable, and it's not necessarily a complete indictment on Kenny's ability to actually play in the NFL.
Do you think it's the gloves? You think the gloves have anything to do with this? And that's the super dumb question, but at this point, it's got to be asked.
I don't know. I mean, he threw in the preseason, that. I feel like if that was an issue, it would have shown up earlier in the preseason. Yeah, it would be a consistent problem all the way through. But that's the thing, that I don't think this has been a consistent problem for him.
Yeah. It's just a thing that's popped up now that is alarming. I agree. I think that you have until the end of the season to turn this around. The unfortunate part for the Pittsburgh Steelers is just like I said, like this defense is good enough, and I get it. Week 1 was terrible, but I think after last night, you could at least to some degree chalk up week 1 to just an overall poor performance. But you're going to run into more problems as the season goes on because your defense can't play like this. You know what I mean? We've seen it for the last 2-3 seasons. Your defense cannot withhold 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. It just doesn't work. Like the Pittsburgh Steelers offense does absolutely nothing to help their defense, and their defense is exhausted by the end of the game. And I was in the locker room last night, and Levi Wallace is sitting there, and he's like, I need an IV. I need an IV. Me and Amari Cooper are running a track meet out there. I can't even move. And I'm just like, dude, like that. This is week 2. And guys are this tired. It's just not going to, you're not going to hold up. You're not going to make it a whole season if your offense does not do anything to help you out at least a little bit. And I think, to be totally honest, I think the way that you avoid this is to run the football more, and the Steelers aren't going to do that. And when they are going to do that, they're going to run pitches with Najee Harris, who's the slowest running back in the NFL and makes absolutely zero sense to run a pitch. But again, that's a Matt Canada thing. Do you know another team that runs a pitch?
The Patriots did on like a 4th and 1 or like a 3rd and short on Sunday night. That was real bad. It got like blown up for like a loss of 4 yards in like the fourth quarter when they were down like 7. It was I know at least one team. Yeah.
And it didn't work well.
But that is the other thing. Like, are we inching towards like a Jalen takeover? Because like he was definitively the better, but even after the fourth quarter when Najee had a couple big runs, Jalen was consistently the better guy last night. I think that's another thing that we get to kind of grade Matt Canada on is how does he use these running backs and how does he use them to help out Kenny, because the running game is obviously, like you said, going to be huge moving forward.
Yeah, I don't know how you approach it, because I agree with you. Like, I don't think Najee was bad last night. I thought he showcased a little bit, but I look at Najee Harris as a guy that, like, I'm putting Najee out there 30% of the time. I'm putting Jaylen Warren out there 70% of the time. I'm feeling really comfortable with that 1-2 punch because just like, dude, it's not like Jaylen Warren. That's what we have to move away from. Is like Jaylen Warren is this explosive. He's only going to get you 25 to 30 yards. No, Jaylen Warren's going to catch a pass 2 yards past the line of scrimmage and get you 15 yards because he's going to fight through 4 guys and fall forward. Jaylen Warren is going to make huge blocks. That George Pickens catch, if you go back and watch it, you want to know who deserves all the credit on that? Jaylen Warren, who picks up like 4 dudes by just pretty much running into them to create space for George Pickens. And I'm sorry, I don't know if Najee would or not, but if I had to guess, just watching Najee's play, Najee would have danced around. He wouldn't have grabbed anybody. There wouldn't have been any attention on him whatsoever, and Pickens would have got tackled. Like, it would have been a totally different play. Jaylen Warren is everything you're looking for in running back. It is, at this point, like, there's no hiding it. You know what I'm saying? Like, last night, I think, just like you said, was proof that Jaylen is the better running back. Do you think that there is a switch? Like, Najee's going to be the starter. That's not going to change. But do you think that we could see an evolution where Jaylen kind of oversteps his carry total?
Well, I think you kind of saw the beginning of it last night. I don't think Jaylen got a ton of carries, but he had a bunch of touches. Like I think he had at least 4 catches, if not more. So I think you end up
with 4 catches, 66 yards, and then 6 rushes for 20 yards. Najee had 10 carries for 43 yards and 1 reception for 0 yards.
Yeah, you're starting to see a much more even 50-50 split. And I kind of suspect, like, to be honest, I'm starting to think of it as like, okay, Jaylen can be your starter, carry the load for 3 quarters, and then in the 4th quarter, once you get a defense kind of worn down a little bit, that's where Najee can really shine, and he can be a big part of finishing games for you. I will say I don't think the offensive line did Najee a ton of favors last night, but
no,
but that said, like, Jaylen is a back that I think is built much better to kind of overcome maybe some subpar run blocking.
Yeah, but I also think the play calling affected how well the offensive line could block. Like, there were a ton of shotgun. And don't get me wrong, like, I think some guys played, like, Myles Garrett had like a tackle in the game, and so shout out to Chooks and shout out to Dan Moore. I thought Isaac Seumalo struggled for a second week in a row. Mason Cole, is not the guy. Yeah, he's just not the guy. James Daniels, I didn't really get a huge read on, but there were no like glaring mistakes. But I think the play calling, again, I'm not gonna like excuse the offensive line because they did have holes, they did have problems. But I just felt like every run was like just an odd run. Like, it wasn't like a let's just hand it right up the middle and let Najee get 4 yards and see if he could burst one. It was like every rush has to go for 15 yards. Like, that's just that was the only thing that all outside handoffs, all shotgun handoffs. Like, dude, just line up in an I formation or single back and hand the ball off and see what you could do. Like, I just feel like in the NFL, especially against a team like the Cleveland Browns, like, that's how you win football games. And they didn't do it. But I agree with you. I think the change is somewhat evident. I don't know. The snap counts, I don't believe, came out yet as we're recording this. But if I do imagine, I think Jaylen probably outsnapped Najee. And that probably had something to do with circumstance. But also, just like you said, like, Najee's built to close out games. Jaylen's built to win you games. And that's 2 totally different running backs. And the Pittsburgh Steelers should 100% turn to Jaylen Warren. But again, they're stubborn. This is what they do. And they do not, they don't like change. What's up, guys? I have super exciting news to share with you. We have merchandise, from t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, and hoodies, and plenty of designs, from Pickens to Pickett, Muth, Bleed Black and Gold, and of course, all of your All Steelers Talk gear, all available at blackandgoldapparel.myspreadshop.com or on the store tab at our YouTube page. We cannot thank you guys enough. We would not be here without each and every one of you. And it feels awesome to be able to represent the AST brand and to spread that representation out to all of Steelers Nation. We know that you guys and us, we are one, and this has been one hell of a ride. Again, we cannot thank you guys enough. Check out everything at blackandgoldapparel.myspreadshop.com or on the YouTube page, or the store tab, on our YouTube page, to get all your AST gear and whatever t-shirts, sweatshirts, shorts, nutties, coffee mugs that you're thinking. Again, thank you guys. Let's talk about TJ and Alex real quick. TJ obviously seals the game with a fumble recovery forced by Alex Highsmith, who had like a ridiculous game last night. That was, I can't even say it was the best game of his career, because last year against the Bengals might have been the best game of his career. The last night might have been right. It might have been 1A, 1B. You have no idea. Highsmith starts the game with a pick six. Never seen a linebacker run that fast in my life. Guy took off. And also, his coverage skills are so underrated for a guy who could also rush the passer. I know that had a lot to do with Levi Wallace and Minkah Fitzpatrick, but like he was alert enough to like find the ball, catch the ball. And then TJ ends it with that one. I mean, I wish you could give Defensive Player of the Year to two guys, because I think right now you're just like, it's just like, here, guys, you guys are doing it. You've won games. There's nothing left to say, but those two are unbelievable, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was really struck by, you just listened to TJ talk post game, like did an interview with ESPN with Alex after the game, and then went into his press conference and said it again. But just like the glowing reviews, and it's clear that these guys have a bond and a friendship that is genuine. Yes. They are partners in this, and TJ clearly views Alex as an equal, as a peer, as the same kind of level of superstar as him, which I think is nice to see. And I think, well deserved for Alex. Like, I think you love when a guy gets paid and then backs it up like right away. I think that's a really good feeling. It's I don't know, pass rushers are the most valuable defenders in this league, and the Steelers have two of the best of them, and they proved why. Like, I think it's unbelievable that this game was booked. So first, not only does the defense outscore the offense, which is partly concerning, but also pretty cool sometimes. But then, it's like bookending the game. It's setting the tone with a pick six,
yes,
from Highsmith, and then it's closing that game out with a strip sack and a scoop and score. It was exactly what they needed, and those are the two best players on the team, right? Like those are, like, so, and they played like they're two best players on the team.
Yeah, I agree. It's just like fun to watch, like when it was TJ, it was cool. It was like, oh man, TJ's so good. But now it's just like, oh, this 1-2 punch is, like this is what Pittsburgh Steelers is. They are. This is what they are. They're worth every single penny. Anybody can say whatever they want. I saw some people tweeting last night, and I'll be reading your words a little bit about, oh, this is the highest paid defense in the NFL. Yeah, it is. And those two are massive contributors to that, and they deserve every penny that they get because they won a football game last night. They won the game. The game is not won without those two on the field. Hands down. Also, it's not going to end. It's never going to end. It's going to be a thing throughout their entire career. But I don't know how many times TJ Watt has to have a better game than Myles Garrett before we could just end the conversation of Myles Garrett is not, like, it's not there. I woke up this morning, checked the Defensive Player of the Year odds. Myles Garrett is still above TJ Watt in Defensive Player of the Year odds, and he's going to stay that way. And Dan Moore is not that good, man. Like, he's not good enough to say, oh, well, Myles get, like, can you blame him? It was Dan Moore Jr. Nobody's saying that. They're saying he should have a ridiculous game, and he didn't. And meanwhile, TJ Watt, for one, beat like 4 holds that I caught. And for 2, DeJuan Jones false started on literally every single snap. And not like the Juwan Taylor. I can't talk.
Juwan Taylor,
yeah. Like getting off right before the snap, or the Lane Johnson getting off right before the snap. No, like I'm talking like hike the ball. Like, it was so bad. And he still beat it. I just, the conversation at some point, we got to stop talking about it.
Yeah, I did see someone was in like Chris Carter's mentions or something, talking about like, Oh, well, Kenny was like getting the ball out really quickly.
No, he
And
was
so when you
not.
think about, yeah, when you think about like total pressures and stuff, that's the stuff you really got to measure. I was like, what are you talking about? The guy had one tackle. What? And yeah, you were right. Kenny is not getting the ball out quick. That is the opposite of what he's doing.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, they
And
were,
they ran to Myles Garrett's side almost exclusively, and he did not do anything.
yeah, yeah. So I don't, and it's like, oh, okay, like Myles Garrett in hypothetical situation, like I don't know, T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith made the actual plays and won the game. I get that shouldn't be the end all be all, especially for a defensive player. But I don't know, when two guys clearly make a much bigger impact on winning than another, like I don't understand how you can kind of keep going back and forth in this circle with Myles Garrett as your guy over them,
and still give it to him. Like it doesn't make any sense. It's going to continue. It's never going to stop. I bet you they're talking about it on ESPN right now. I bet you somewhere some guys just like, well, Myles Garrett was, held in this and blah, 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 blah. And okay, sounds good, man. Look, if you're making a prototypical edge rusher or pass rusher or defensive lineman or whatever he plays, I get it. Sounds, yeah, Myles Garrett's the guy. That's the guy I'm putting on the field to say this. Look like this. You want to be successful? Look like this. You want to play? You want to play football and be productive? Be TJ Watt. That's just clear as day. No questions asked. JJ Watt sent out a tweet agreeing with us, so that's how you know it's real.
I trust him.
He's the most unbiased voice I think you could possibly ask in the argument. All right, biggest question before we head out here. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 1-1. They're currently a game out of first place in the AFC North, game out of the playoffs. It's only 2 weeks in. I fully understand it. They go from an absolute train wreck of a performance in week 1 against San Francisco 49ers to a win that took everything they had, but showcased that they really do have some superstars on this team, and they have to overcome their offensive coordinator and their quarterback. I understand that, but if they could, the upside might be there. Where do you see the Steelers right now in the grand scheme of things? And what do you think the potential is of this team in 2023?
I don't think my expectations have changed really at all. I still think it's like 10 wins or bust. It's like playoff berth or bust. I think especially when you look at the rest of the division, no one looks good. I mean, Ravens, I guess, but even then, I don't think you've been super impressed with everything they've done, and we still haven't had our annual Lamar injury. So,
true.
Like, there's a lot of ball left to play, but Cleveland doesn't scare you, certainly. Neither do the Bengals. I think you don't have to look much further than just the rest of the division struggling as well to be optimistic about where they can go and think that a playoff berth is still on the table, even while the offense looks a little lackluster.
Yeah, I as crazy as it sounds, the AFC right now looks like an absolute crapshoot, and emphasis on the crap, because the Kansas City Chiefs don't look all that great. The Jacksonville Jaguars look good at the end of games, bad at the beginning of games. The Indianapolis Colts might be the most impressive team in the whole conference right now, as crazy that is. You just have no idea. Like, the Buffalo Bills are not impressive. The New York Jets are probably a playoff team, but how bad could Zach Wilson be before you remove them from that category? Like, because you want to talk about bad quarterbacks, he's 10 times worse than Kenny Pickett right now. You have no idea what's going to go on. You have zero idea. Like, if you had to pick a winner of the AFC right now, you're possibly betting on the Ravens, like, maybe, and you don't feel good about that.
I was gonna say, I don't know if I would bet on that.
No, the Denver Broncos were supposed to be good. They might be the worst team in football. The Raiders stink. The Chargers, they always stink, but they stink again, no matter how good that team could possibly be. The Nick Chubb's out for the season. Joe Burrow's hurt right now. Just like you said, like, there's zero reason for anybody in the AFC to say I am superior. The Pittsburgh Steelers, even with their issues, are still very much so in the mix. I think even more in the mix. Like, if this is the beginning of the season, if this is 2 weeks ago, we're talking about, oh my gosh, this is it, man. Like, the Steelers are never going to be able to compete with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, or the Buffalo Bills, or the Jets, or the Cincinnati Bengals. Well, all those teams stink. So
we did forget Miami. Thank you, Nick.
Miami does look very, very, very good.
But I don't know. They played New England to a 1-score game, and I think the Steelers are better than the Patriots. Like this is
Me too. But the Patriots, like in New England, division game.
It's not the same thing anymore. It's
No.
like playing in New England is not really that. It's not really. It's
But
not
an
like
AFC East? You don't say an AFC East?
No, not really. Because
No.
the Patriots also always stink against the Dolphins. This is
That's true.
so
That is true. That is true. The Dolphins might be it though.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of Baltimore, like the Dolphins are.
Well, and I'm much
they're the
more
only
willing,
two impressive teams right now.
Yeah, and I'm much more willing to bet on Miami than Baltimore. So.
But Tua is gonna get like that's the thing. You're what are you betting on? What quarterback goes down first? Like it's
pretty much.
You're in some serious trouble once that goes down. Unless Mike White is the savior, which very much so could be. Mike White Lightning.
Yeah, no disrespect to that guy. I would
never. Not after what I've seen him do. But that's the thing is like the AFC just ain't it. The Pittsburgh Steelers are very much so in this. The problem is that you got to fix that offense before things become too bad that you can't handle it. And 17 games is a long time to ship your defense out there for 80% of a ball game and say, you guys will be fine. Don't worry. Everything will be okay. Like eventually guys are going to break down. You're going to deal with more injuries. You're going to lose some superstars. And right now you have a 33-year-old cornerback playing most of the game. Like you can't bank on that. So if you don't fix it sooner rather than later, I don't know where my expectations lie.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. There's still a lot of questions. I feel like this win feels good, but this win stabilized you. But now you've still got to answer a bunch of questions and get a lot better before, you can seriously consider, playoff run, what the future holds, anything like that. I think the good news is that the schedule gets a little easier, and this team has proved continuity helps. Like moving through the season, I'm willing to bet on them getting better as the year goes on.
Yeah, me too. It's a wait and see game. Week 3, San Francisco 49ers. That was week 1. Las Vegas Raiders. I'm still exhausted. I cannot wait to go to bed. San Francisco. Nope, I did it again. Las Vegas Raiders, week 3 in what's their Allegiant?
Allegiant, yes.
Allegiant Stadium, the spaceship out in Vegas. It's going to be a good time. Another primetime game, so an opportunity for everybody to say, see, hear, and boo Matt Canada and Kenny Pickett. We'll see what happens. Expectations are still high. With that, we're heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk, and find us anywhere that you get your podcast. Check out everything throughout the week at allsteelers.com and our pick coverage as they look to bounce back once again at InsideThePanthers.com. We will be back on Wednesday. Enjoy a beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.